Right. Our next topic is transportation. So this is another important life processes. We have seen nutrition and respiration, and the next one is transportation. So transportation is needed for the transport of materials, that is for the supply of materials like glucose and oxygen to each and every cell of an organism. Say we are talking about human bodies. So in our body we have millions of cells which need a continuous supply of glucose and oxygen, and at the same time in each and every cell of our body so many toxic waste materials are produced during metabolic activities. So these waste materials are to be removed from our cells and they are to be sent out of our bodies. So for the process of supplying the useful materials and for the process of removing the waste materials and throwing them out, transportation is required. So this is another important life process. So if we look at the human transport system, if we see the human transport system, so it has got three major parts, that is one, blood. The first one is blood. So blood is to carry the different materials, and the second one is heart. Heart is the pumping organ. So blood is the fluid connective tissue. You studied about blood in class 9th. It is a fluid connective tissue. It has so many roles in our body, and most important role is to transport the materials. And second one, heart. Heart is the pumping organ. It circulates the blood in our body. So the blood, it moves in our blood vessels because of due to the pumping of heart, right? So second one, heart, and third one is blood vessels. These are the channels, these are the pipelines that are extended to all parts of our body, right? So they are connecting each and every cell of our body. They form the network of channels, nothing but the blood vessels. So these are the three main components of human transport system or human circulatory system. What are they? Blood, heart and blood vessels. Next, let us see the composition of blood. So blood is a fluid connective tissue. Blood is usually red in color. Why the blood is red in color? Due to the presence of a pigment called as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, it binds the oxygen and transports the oxygen. So the blood usually looks like this. The whole blood looks in red color, right? So when the blood is centrifuged, centrifuged means there is a device called as centrifugator. Usually this is present in laboratories. So what happens in this centrifugator? When they take the blood in a test tube and put it in the centrifugator, when they rotate the centrifugator, due to the centrifugal force, that is a force you study in physics, due to that force the blood, it gets divided into its various components. Different components of blood get separated. Children, you know blood is a suspension. You know that suspensions, colloids and all you studied in your chemistry, suspension. That means in a liquid part, so many solid particles are suspended, that is a suspension. So blood is a suspension. So the different parts of the suspension are separated by a process called centrifugation. So now you see how the components are separated. You can see yellow color part which is called as plasma. The liquid part of the blood is called as plasma. Usually it is in pale red color or yellow color, that is plasma. So what do the plasma contain? The plasma contain nutrients like amino acids, glucose, all these are present in the plasma. Carbon dioxide. So we studied that in respiration. Carbon dioxide transported by blood in dissolved form. It gets dissolved in the plasma. And salts, all kind of mineral salts and nitrogenous wastes. All these are present in plasma. And the second component is white blood cells. And the bottom, the sediment that is formed here is red blood cells, RBC. So RBC, they contain the hemoglobin which carry the oxygen. So this is the major components. These are the major components of blood, right children? So let us go to the next one, heart. So we have seen what is blood and what are the components of blood. Okay. So now let us see heart. So in this particular chapter, we are going to study the structure and function of human heart. So what is the structure and what are its functions? What are the different parts of the heart? And what is the role of each and every part of the heart? These details we are going to study in this chapter. So here this is the structure, external structure of human heart. So the human heart is a muscular. Heart is made up of cardiac muscle. It's a muscular organ which is in the size of a fist, right? So fist sized organ with 4 chambers. There are 4 chambers. We will see in the cross section of the heart, then we can identify the 4 chambers. Out of the 4 chambers, 2 atria and 2 ventricles. There are 2 atria, 2 ventricles which pump the blood. So here the point is, it is in the size of our fist. It's a muscular organ, right? And what is the second point we are going to learn about the heart is, it is enclosed in a protective sac called pericardium. Pericardium. The heart is enclosed in a protective covering. The heart is enclosed in a protective covering called as pericardium. It gives protection. The pericardium also contains pericardial fluid which gives some shock proof to the heart. So it protects from the shocks and injuries. The pericardium and pericardial fluid. So this pericardium, it supplies oxygen, nutrients. So it is enclosed in a protective sac called as pericardium. Right, children? So what is the main function of this heart? It is to pump and supply the nutrients and oxygen to the circulatory system. That is the main function of the heart. Next. This is the cross section of the heart. Cross section of the heart. Right? So what do we see here? In the previous point we have seen there are 4 chambers in the heart. There are 4 chambers. What are they? 1, 2, 3, 4. And the upper chambers are called as atria. Right atrium and left atrium. Right atrium, left atrium. And the bottom chambers are ventricles. Right ventricle and left ventricle. So right ventricle, left ventricle. There are some blood vessels connected. We can see the blood vessel here. We can see the blood vessel. This is a blood vessel. Like this, it is going the flow like this, and this is a blood vessel. We can see the blood vessels. Here are the blood vessels. Right, children? So there are 2 blood vessels that are connected to the right atrium. Here you can see 2 blood vessels. These blood vessels, they bring deoxygenated blood from the body parts. So what are these blood vessels? So this one is superior vena cava. Superior vena cava. This is inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, they are bringing deoxygenated blood from body parts. Superior vena cava means it brings the blood from upper parts of the body like head. Inferior vena cava, it brings blood from the lower parts of the body, right? So the blood is brought into the right atrium, the deoxygenated blood. Now what are these blood vessels? Let us see the other blood vessels. Here we see 2 blood vessels, these blood vessels. So what are these 2 blood vessels? And there are 2 more blood vessels, the same kind, but in this diagram they are not seen, similar to this. So what are these blood vessels? These are pulmonary veins. These are pulmonary veins, right? So, but actually you see that some oxygenated blood is flowing into this. So what is this chamber called as? Left atrium. Left atrium. This chamber is called as right atrium, and this chamber is called as left atrium. These are pulmonary veins. And what is this one? A big artery a big blood vessel is coming out and it is spreading. So this one is called as pulmonary aorta. That means big artery. Big arteries are called as aorta, a pulmonary artery. Right? It is branched into two. And what is this one? This bigger one. This one is systemic aorta or systemic artery. So the big systemic artery. Right, children? So just I am giving you the blood vessels and the chambers of the heart. Here we are seeing the cross section of the heart. So now you understood there are 4 chambers, 1, 2, 3, 4. The upper chambers are called as atrium, that is right atrium, left atrium. The lower chambers are ventricles, right ventricle, left ventricle. Right, and there are some blood vessels connected to the heart. So from the heart we can see 2 major blood vessels going like this. The one which is going to lungs is pulmonary aorta. So this is going to lungs. Here you can see that it is divided into two branches. One is to right lung, left lung, like this. 2. And there is one more big artery which is taking the blood to different parts of the body, that is systemic aorta. Systemic aorta. Pulmonary aorta means the blood is carried to lungs. Pulmonary veins means the blood is brought from lungs to heart. Right? So let us go to that functioning of the heart. Let us look at the functioning of the heart. So the same diagram, here you can see this area is marked in blue, this is marked in red. The right atrium getting the deoxygenated blood from the body. I already told you that there are 2 blood vessels connected. So this is superior vena cava and this is inferior vena cava. So from body parts the blood is brought into this right atrium. The left atrium gets the oxygenated blood. From where? From lungs, because lungs are purifying the blood. In the lungs, exchange of gases takes place and the blood is filled with oxygen. So that oxygenated blood is entering into the left atrium. So from where it is coming? It is coming from lungs. From the lungs, the oxygenated blood enters into the left atrium. Right? So this is the first stage. Deoxygenated blood enters into the right atrium, oxygenated blood enters into the left atrium. So now that blood, whatever the blood that enter here, it flows down. See, this blood, it flows down into the right ventricle, right atrium to right ventricle. In the same way, the blood from the left atrium flows into left ventricle. So you can see that right atrium and right ventricle, they always contain deoxygenated blood. So right side of the heart, always we find deoxygenated blood. And left side, left atrium, left ventricle, oxygenated blood. So the blood, it flows from atrium to ventricle, right atrium to right ventricle, left atrium to left ventricle. Right, children? So next, here. So the blood from the atrium entered the ventricles. So from here, the blood is pumped to different parts. Now the right ventricle, it contracts. And it sends the blood. Which blood is this? Deoxygenated blood. The blood which is shown in blue is deoxygenated blood. So this deoxygenated blood is sent into lungs. So this is the pulmonary aorta. Pulmonary aorta carries the deoxygenated blood to lungs. So from here, the blood, it goes to lungs. Whereas the left ventricle is having oxygenated blood. The left ventricle, it pumps the blood to body parts. So the left ventricle pumps the blood to body parts, right ventricle pumps the blood to lungs for purification. So atria collect the blood and send the blood to ventricles. Ventricle pump the blood to body parts. Right? So the right ventricle pumps the blood to lungs for purification. Left ventricle pumps the blood to body parts for providing all the oxygen and nutrient. Right, children. Now let us explore the other features of the human heart. So this is the one more picture showing the internal structure of the heart. Here we can observe the walls, the thickness of the walls of atria and ventricles. If you see the atrium, the thickness of the wall of atria, it is less, whereas the thickness of the ventricles is more. Ventricles are much thicker or broader. You can see thick walls are present for ventricles. The walls of the atria are thin. The reason is the atria they have to pump the blood just down into the ventricles, which are located below. So they need not exert much pressure. But whereas the ventricles, so they should exert the pressure to supply or to pump the blood to different parts of the body. So from this ventricle, the blood flows to different parts. From left ventricle, the blood flows to different parts. Right ventricle, the blood flows to lungs. So they need thick walls. The ventricles, they have thick walls, and the atria, they have thin walls. Right. Now what is the other feature we see inside the internal structure of the heart? We can see the valves, present of valves. So what are these valves? Valves are just like doors or gates. You can see them. They allow the flow of blood only in one direction. They do not allow the blood to flow in opposite direction. For example, so the blood is present in this particular one. What is this? This is left atria. This is left ventricle. So now the blood, it flows from left atria to left ventricle. The blood only flows in this direction. The blood cannot flow back from left ventricle to left atria. It should not. It should not flow like that. So that is the reason why there is a valve. So valve is like a door which allows the flow of blood only in one direction. So this direction to this direction. Blood always comes from left atria to left ventricle, not from left ventricle to left atria. It cannot go because the valve, it stops the reverse flow. It closes. It opens only when the blood comes from left atria to left ventricle. That is the purpose of a valve. So here we can see 4 types of valves. So all the valves, they have the same function, that is to allow the blood only in one direction, not in reverse direction. That is the major function of a valve. Now let us see what are the different types of valves. And this is right atria and right ventricle. Between left atria and left ventricle we have a valve. What is this valve? So this valve is called as mitral valve. Mitral valve. And what is the function of the mitral valve? Allowing the blood to flow from left atria to left ventricle. And there is one more valve here. There is one more valve here. So what is this valve? This valve is present between the left ventricle and systemic aorta. So this is the systemic aorta. This is the systemic aorta. What is the function of systemic aorta? To supply the blood to different parts of the body. So this valve is called as aortic valve. Aortic valve. And there is one more valve here. So this valve is present between the pulmonary aorta and the right ventricle. So it allows the blood to flow from right ventricle to pulmonary aorta, not in reverse direction. So this valve is called as pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve. So 3 valves completed. The fourth one is present here. It is present between right atria and right ventricle. Right atria and right ventricle. What is this valve? This valve is called as tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. Right. So there are 4 different types of valves present in the human heart. And I told you the valve is like a door which allows the flow of blood only in one particular direction. So children, we have seen the structure and function of human heart. Now let us see how the heart is present in different organisms. What is the structure of heart in other organisms? So the structure of the heart in animals is based on their energy requirements. So some organisms they need less energy, some organisms they need more energy. Depending upon their energy needs, the structure of the heart is designed. Let us see. See, this is a 4-chambered heart. There are 4 chambers in this heart of mammals and birds. So these are the birds and mammals. Birds and mammals, they have 4-chambered heart. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And you can observe that the separation, there is a separation line. So the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are not mixed in the heart. They are maintained separately. So see all the left side oxygenated blood, right side deoxygenated blood. And one of our student, he has given in a comment giving a short form to remember this Lord. So left side oxygenated blood, right side deoxygenated blood, right. So like that, here in the right side, on the right side of the heart only deoxygenated blood is present, and on the left side of the heart oxygenated blood. So this is the feature of the heart of birds and mammals. Let us see how it is in other organisms. Here we see frog. Frog is an amphibian. And snakes, reptiles. So in amphibians and in reptiles, 3-chambered heart, 3 chambers, only 3. What are they? So you can see the atria, and this is left atria, and this is so this is right atria and this is left atria, and only one ventricle here. So here the oxygenated blood from the lungs enters into the ventricle, and the deoxygenated blood from the body parts also enters into the ventricle. So in the ventricle the blood is mixed, the oxygenated and deoxygenated, both the bloods are mixed here, right. So the mixed blood is supplied to lungs and the mixed blood is supplied to body parts. So in case of amphibians and reptiles, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is mixed together in the ventricle and it is supplied. So that is the case of 3-chamber heart. Let us see in other organisms like fishes. So here we have a fish. See, this is the heart. This is the heart. So the heart has got only 2 chambers. It has got only 2 chambers. One atria, one ventricle. But how the circulation goes on here? So the blood that is pumped by the heart, it goes to the gills for oxygenation. So from here the blood, it goes to body parts, and from the body parts again the blood is collected by the heart. So heart to gills, gills to body parts to heart. So children, you can see here only 2 chambers are there, and we observe only one circuit. You know what is a circuit? In physics you are studying. Circuit is a closed path. Here only one circuit in the blood circulation. So this kind of circulation is called as single circuit circulation, which is seen in fishes. The heart is only 2-chambered. Example of 2-chambered heart, fish. 3-chambered heart, amphibians and reptiles. 4-chambered heart, birds and mammals. Next, here this is the human circulatory system. Why we have come back to the human circulatory system again? So in the previous slide we have seen single circuit circulation, but here in humans we see double circuit circulation, double circuit. What are these double circuit? Here you can see between the heart and lungs there is one circuit, and between the heart and body parts there is one more circuit, right? Second circuit. So this is one circuit, you can see this is one circuit and this is one circuit. There are two circuits. So that is why it is called as double circuit circulation. So previously in fishes we have seen this is single circuit circulation, only one circuit. The blood from heart going to gills, from gills to body parts, again to heart. Only one circuit. Whereas in case of humans, two circuits. So this is double circuit circulation. Right. So next we have blood and blood vessels. So these are the blood vessels. So these are the veins which are represented in blue color, and these are the arteries. These are the arteries, and the fine branches of veins and arteries. The fine branches of veins and arteries, these are capillaries. Capillaries. Right. So we can observe some differences between the veins and arteries. If you see arteries, the thickness of the walls, you see the wall thickness of veins and arteries. Veins, they are thin, arteries, they are thick. Do you know the reason? Because the heart, it pumps the blood into arteries first. So arteries, they get the blood from heart. So there is more pressure. To resist that pressure, the arteries, they have thick walls, right? So the arteries have thick walls and the blood flows into the arteries, and from the arteries it goes to the capillaries, it goes to the body parts. So these capillaries, they carry the blood to each and every cell. Again from the cells, the venules, they start and they join with the veins. So this is a vein. You can see inside the vein the blood flows only in one direction. There is a chance that blood can come back in reverse direction also in veins. So that is prevented by the presence of valves. I already told you valves. In the internal structure of heart we have seen valves. Valves are just like doors, they allow the flow of blood only in one direction. So in veins we see the valves, but valves are absent in arteries. Because in veins there is a chance of blood reverse flow. Because there is no pressure pushing, very less pressure. The pressure is there in arteries because the heart is connected to arteries and it is pumping the blood to arteries. But whereas in veins the pressure is low, so there is a chance of blood coming back due to gravity or any other thing. So here there are veins which make the blood to flow in one particular direction. So what are the three major blood vessels? Veins, capillaries and arteries. Now let us look at the blood pressure. So there is some pressure in the blood vessels because the heart is pumping. Because of that pumping, there is a pressure in blood vessels, especially in the arteries. So it's very, very important, children. So the blood pressure should be in its normal levels. So when it exceeds, when the pressure increases, this high blood pressure is also called as hypertension, which may damage the blood vessels. It leads to so many complications. So here is a cross section of a blood vessel. You can see that the pressure, how the pressure is exerted on the walls of the blood vessel, right? So this is the pressure. But what is the normal healthy blood pressure? How do we measure the blood pressure? And how much pressure is there in this blood vessels? Right. So let us see the blood pressure in blood vessel during systole and diastole. So what is this systole and what is this diastole? Systole means the contraction phase of the heart, the pumping phase of the heart. So the heart, it contracts and relaxes, contracts and relaxes. The ventricles are contracting, pumping the blood and relaxing. So the contraction of the heart is called systole, and the relaxation is called diastole. Diastole. Right, children? Systole, diastole. Contraction of ventricles, relaxation of ventricles. So during the systole, that is during the contraction of the ventricles, more pressure is exerted in the blood vessel. So that pressure is called as systolic pressure. Systolic pressure, how much is that? 120 mmHg. And whereas the diastole, the relaxation of ventricles, less pressure. What is that pressure? Diastolic pressure. So how much is the diastolic pressure? 80 mmHg. Right. So which one we have to take? If blood pressure means, which one we have to take? We have to take the systolic pressure or diastolic pressure. Let us see. The normal blood pressure in a normal person is measured, the blood pressure is measured by systolic pressure by diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure by diastolic. So that is 120 by 80. That is the measure. So the doctors, they consider both systolic pressure as well as diastolic pressure. They use a device called as sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer to measure the blood pressure. Now BP machines are also available now, digital machines which are available in the market. So with that BP machines also people check the blood pressure. Right, children? So what is the normal blood pressure of a healthy person? 120 by 80 mmHg is the normal blood pressure of a healthy person. So what is blood pressure? The pressure inside the arteries. That is during systole and diastole. That is the contraction phase of the heart and relaxation phase of the heart. So next, repair of damaged blood vessels. Let us see if a blood vessel is damaged, how it is repaired. Now, let us look at the repair of damaged blood vessels. So if there is any cut to our finger or to our skin, then there is bleeding. The blood comes out of the blood vessel. But you see, if there is a small cut, just if you apply some pressure or if you hold it for some time, then the blood, it stops bleeding. That means the blood clots. So when there is a cut in a blood vessel, the blood, it comes out like this. At the same time, these particular special blood cells called as blood platelets, so these platelets, they move to the site where there is a cut and they block the cut. The platelets, they block the cut. So next we have lymphatic system. So you know this is the blood circulatory system. Here is the heart and the blue color lines are the veins which collect the deoxygenated blood from body parts, and the red color ones are the arteries which supply the oxygenated blood to different parts of our body. And the blood is flowing in these veins, in these blood vessels due to the pumping of heart. Heart is pumping. Here we see this is the lymphatic system. So here are the lines that are shown in green color are lymph vessels. These are the lymph vessels. Here you can see the green color dots throughout the system, green color dots. So these dots are called as lymph nodes. But see here, it's not connected to the heart. Here the blood circulatory system is connected to the heart. Here the lymphatic system is not connected to the heart. Then how the lymph flows? Lymph, it flows very slowly, not like circulatory system, not like blood. Lymph flows very slowly. It depends upon our body movements and muscular movements. The lymph, it flows in the lymphatic system. Right. So lymph is a white colorless fluid. Blood is a colored fluid. It contains hemoglobin and all. Lymph is similar to blood. Lymph also contains certain kind of nutrients and salts, just like plasma. Whatever is there in the plasma, almost that type of nutrients are present in the lymph. So, but what is the difference? The main function of the lymph is to provide immunity to fight infections. That is the main function of the lymphatic system and lymph. And not only that, the another important function, one is immunity, that is to giving protection from the diseases, from the infections, and second one is for the transport of fats. So they play an important role in the transportation of fats. Lymph plays an important role. Let us see. So lymph is a clear watery fluid that circulates throughout the lymphatic system and helps maintaining fluid balance, absorption of fats, and supporting immune defense system. These are the major roles played by the lymph. Then how is this lymph formed? Here you can see the blood vessel. These are the capillaries. So from the capillaries, some materials they leak into the intercellular fluid, intercellular space. That means the space between the cells. So there is some space. Into that space, some materials leak from the capillaries. So this material do not contain red blood cells. Just they contain liquid, water and some kind of nutrients. And there are some blood vessels. So all these materials they form the lymph. This lymph, it enters into the lymphatic vessels. Lymphatic vessels. So the lymph, it enters into the lymphatic vessels. So these lymphatic vessels, just like right. So into the lymphatic system. So this plays an important role in fluid balance, absorption of fats and supports immune system. Right children? So that is about the lymphatic system. So next we see transportation in plants. So transportation in plants. So plants, they have two different type of vessels for the transport. We studied about these vessels in tissues lesson, that is in class 9th, xylem and phloem. So xylem is the tissue that transports water and minerals, whereas the phloem, it transports the food, right? So the xylem and phloem together, they form the vascular bundles. So these vascular bundles, they carry the water and food to different parts of the plant. Just how we have arteries and veins, in the same way plants have xylem and phloem for the transportation of materials, right? Now let us see the structure of xylem tissue. What are the different components? This is the xylem tissue. It has got different components like xylem parenchyma, vessels, xylem vessels, tracheids and xylem fibers, right? So the xylem tissue in plants, it consists of interconnected vessels, tracheids that are found in the roots, that are found in the stems and leaves and forming channels. So it is forming channels. So everywhere it is found in the root, stem and leaves. So the water is supplied by this xylem. See here, this is the root and this is the root hair. Root hair. Here, how the transport of water takes place, how the water enters into the root hair. So the root hair, the water enters by a simple phenomena called as osmosis. We all know that osmosis, right? So inside the root, the cell sap, whatever the cell sap, here the concentration of ions, is more compared to the outer environment. So when the concentration of ions is more inside the cell, the water molecules, they enter inside the cell. That is by osmosis. We all know osmosis. But sometimes if the concentration of ions is less inside the cell, then what does the plant do? How do the water enters into the root hair? Then the plant cells, they use active transport mechanism, active transport. So the transport in living system is of two types. The transport in living system is of two types. One is passive The second one is active. So what is passive transport? Just by osmosis. There is no need of energy for this osmosis. There is no need to spend energy. Just it can go. It is a natural phenomena, osmosis. But whereas active means by spending ATP. That is active transport. So the cell, it spends some ATP and takes these ions inside, whatever the ions present in the soil. First the cells takes the ions, then the concentration of ions increases. The concentration of ions increases. Why the concentration increases? Because the plant cell is taking the ions inside. So how it is taking? By active transport mechanism. By spending some ATP, it is collecting the ions. So since the concentration of the ions increases, naturally the water, because of osmosis, it enters into the root cells. So this way the water, it passes from one cell to another cell and it enters the plant. So we know that entry point of water is roots. Through roots the water enters into the plants. So here one more point, children. However, this pressure alone may not be enough to move the water up to great height in plants. This pressure. So in the previous slide we have seen that root pressure is created. So the root pressure is created by these ions. They create a pressure, so by that the water enters into this, and this water, it creates some pressure, but this is not sufficient to reach great heights. Some plants, some trees are very tall. So in such cases the xylem cannot carry the water to that great heights, because this pressure from the roots, the root pressure is not sufficient. Then what happens? So the plants use another mechanism called transpiration. It is just like, for example, you have a straw in a drink, in a bottle, and in a juice can you are drinking. So as you are sucking from the upper part, the liquid from the bottom part enter into the straw. In the same way, transpiration helps for the movement of water in xylem. So at the top, from the leaves, the water is evaporated into the atmosphere. The water is evaporated. That is by the process of transpiration. Since the water is being evaporated here, there is a continuous pull of water to the top parts where the water is evaporated. That is by transpiration. Right? So there is a continuous pull of water. So the movement of water due to root pressure at the bottom, and here that is because of the transpiration. So root pressure and transpiration. Root pressure and transpiration, both these things helps the movement of water in plants, right? So the transpiration, the loss of water vapor through stomata in leaves pull the water. Transpiration and root pressure, these are the two things that makes the water to enter into the plants, and that helps the water to move upward to different parts of the body. So that is about the movement of water, transportation of water in plants. Now let us see transportation of food. So the food is prepared by leaves. You know the food is prepared in the form of starch and other compounds. So these compounds are stored at different places. So they are to be stored. For example, if you see carrots, where is the food stored? We are eating the root because the food is stored at the root. So roots. In case of sugarcane, the food is stored at the stem. In case of flowers, cauliflower, it is stored in the flower, and fruits. So the food is stored at different parts. So different plants, they have different storage sites. Some plants store their food in fruits, some plants store their food in stem, some in roots. So whatever the food is prepared here, it should be taken to that part. How the food is taken? That is by the phloem. Phloem is the conductive tissue which carry the food materials to different parts. So here we have the phloem tissue, and here how it goes on, how it transports the food. For example, sucrose. Sucrose is the sugar. So the sucrose, it should move to different parts, to other part of the plant. So for example, this is the stem part, it should go to the bud or flower or fruit. So how it goes? Right. So here the phloem tissue by using active transport. I already told you what is passive transport and active transport. So active transport means it spends ATPs. So it spends some energy in the form of ATP. Okay. So here the phloem, the transportation in phloem is active because some ATP are spent to take the glucose into this phloem. Then how this glucose moves, how this sucrose moves, how the sugar moves. So here one more natural phenomena takes place. When there is a lot of solute here and outside there is a lot of water, the concentration of water is less here and more here. The water molecules, they enter into this phloem by osmosis because there is difference in the concentration of water and solute, right? So here there is more sugar, there is more water here. So less water inside, the water enters into this phloem tissue. Now the water and the sugar, they mix together, they form a sap. They form a sap. So this sap, whatever the sap is formed, the sugar sap that is formed here, so it moves up in different directions, right? So specialized cells, so into the phloem, and they unload them at the sink. What is the meaning of sink? So to which part? For example, this is at the stem. So it should go to fruit. So now the fruit is the sink. Sink means where this sugar is to be transported, that is the sink. So it is transported to the sink. So this process involves specialized cells like sieve tubes and companion cells. So they facilitate the movement of the sucrose to the parts to which it has to be transported. So children, phloem, it transports the food, whereas the xylem transports the water and minerals in plants. See, the transport of the food, it depends upon the requirement of the plant. For example, in some seasons, for example, in the spring season, the buds need food for flowering. So here is the bud. So now the food has to be transported from leaf to bud. So depending upon the requirement, the food is supplied to the particular part by the phloem tissue. So this is about the transportation of food in plants. So waste materials are very produced in very less quantity. So that we are not going to discuss about the transportation of other materials. So just we are discussing about the transportation of water and food, water, minerals and food in plants. So this is about the transportation in animals as well as in plants. So we have completed this life process, and the next life process is excretion.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video. Please share this video with your friends. Please subscribe to Gradebooster channel. Press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. Check the description to find links of other useful videos. Check the end screens for our new videos.